In this video, we're going to have a look at advanced recipes, including cladding and insulation examples. So we'll have a look at things like weatherboards and bags of insulation and how recipes can convert a square meter takeoff, specifically in this example, into lengths of weatherboard or bags of insulation. So going to start with the cladding. We'll go lock up carpenter. And I'm just going to use a weatherboard. I might use that Primeline one actually, and build a recipe off this. Now I want to measure this per square meter, and this is going to be a one-line recipe for me, although you can absolutely add heaps more into it. But I'm going to show you that recipes have value even if they're only one line, assuming that they're actually doing some conversion. If you have a one-line recipe and it's literally just the same price or the exact same item as the main description and it's not doing anything fancy, then it's not really super valuable. But for something like this, where it's converting square meters to linear meters, it is very valuable. Now I'm going to say, let's say 420 per meter, and I'm going to use a Primeline weatherboard. Let's actually, I'm going to tinker with this a bit. Let's just say it's 180 mil, 180 mil by 19 mil. And the thing we need to be most conscious of when doing this is the cover. So something like weatherboards obviously overlaps. In fact, a lot of cladding will overlap. And we need to, rather than use the 180 mil to figure out how much cover we get, we need to actually use the kind of effective cover, if you want to think of it that way. So I'm going to say that each weatherboard will overlap the one below it by 25 mil, which actually gives me 155 mil cover area, or covered, I'll just say cover. That means when I'm going to work out how many meters I am using, I will go calculator, the 1 square meter I care about, divide by 155 in meters, so 0.155. And this is totally the same as how we did decking in another one. So that will say you need 6.45 linear meters of weatherboard per square meter. And that takes into account the overlap, which is awesome. Now, I mentioned earlier, you could add whatever you like to this. You could have things like wrap, labor, you could even do gun nails if you wanted. But for this one, I'm just going to leave it there. And we're going to move on and do another recipe, which is for insulation. In fact, I will cheat just a little bit before I jump out of here. I previously have done a takeoff for a brick area, and I'm just going to say that, you know, very unlikely to have weatherboards sitting on top of brick, but I'm going to use that same area just as an example, also to show that you can reuse measurements this way. So 65 square meters of wall gives me 421 linear meters of weatherboard, which is spot on. We'll save that. We'll go into the insulation category, and we're going to do an example, basically just converting the square meter of wall to bags of bats. Obviously, this may be something that you sub out, and that's fine. You could use the quote request option. But what I'm going to do is do a recipe for it. So we're going to go insulation R3.5, build recipe. And all I'm doing here is going bag R3.5, could be like earth wool or something like that. That bag might cost me $45, $50-ish. And like sheet floor or like weatherboards, in fact, we basically just need to figure out the coverage. And most recipes will come back to this maths, the same maths of coverage. So generally, you can Google this or you can find it on the bag. I'm going to say this whole bag does 16 square, which means that the maths becomes super easy. It's always going to be the 1 square meter that I care about from here, because as always, if I haven't said this already this video, a recipe is always figuring out the contents of 1 square meter or 1 linear meter, and then we go out from there. But the 1 square meter in this case I care about, divide by 16, gives me a 16th of a bag. And if I use the exact same brick measure from before, I might throw a little bit of waste at it this time. I get 4.3 bags. Beautiful. Hopefully this gives you a bit of an insight into how recipes can be used. And any questions, as always, let us know.